Near the end of his mission, Calder picked up a faint signal from an abandoned zone. This signal, drifting through the deathly silence of a dark planet amid colossal ruins, felt like a distant cry for help. Zoron II, a planet once used as a battlefield and later abandoned by the Galactic Federation, had been a forgotten region for years. Couldn't ignore this signal. As he made his way toward the source, he moved silently among the wreckage and burned-out buildings. The sky was blanketed in gray clouds, and the atmosphere was heavy with an oppressive darkness. Moving deeper into the ruins, he passed abandoned tanks, charred ship parts, and toppled structures, clear remnants of the war that the Federation had once waged here and then mercilessly left behind. When Ian reached the source of the signal, his heart tightened. Amid the rubble sat a small group of alien children from various species. They bore the marks of war, with eyes filled with terror. Most of them were huddled in a corner, shaking from fear. Some were injured. A young girl with skin like thin, scaly armor clutched her arm, unable to stop the bleeding. Beside her, a gray-skinned boy with large, sorrowful eyes sat silently. Their families had perished, leaving them stranded and alone. A wave of sorrow washed over Ian, mingled with a fierce desire to protect these children. He paused for a moment. This compassion stirring within him surprised the hardened soldier, tempered by countless battles. But he did not hesitate. He slowly approached the children, lowering his weapon from his shoulder and speaking in a calm voice. "I'm Ian Calder. You don't need to be afraid. I'm here to take you to safety." The children hesitated at first, but Ian's determined expression eased their fear. The oldest of them, a thin boy, asked in a shaky voice, "Can we really get out of here?" Ian nodded quietly. "Yes. But you'll need to stay quiet and do as I say." He gathered the children and led them to a safer spot, hiding them behind a sturdy piece of rubble. Carefully surveying the area, he knew enemy units might still be patrolling nearby. He set up a simple barricade for the children and then searched the area for additional ammunition and supplies. Moving through the darkness, he soon noticed enemy reconnaissance units approaching. Ian quickly devised a plan, placing a few explosives near the area where the children were taking cover. He returned to the children and whispered, "No matter what happens, don't make a sound. Stay calm." The footsteps of the approaching enemy soldiers grew louder. 3 of them, clad in gray metallic armor, advanced cautiously toward Ian's location. Before they could react, Ian silently took down the first soldier with a single shot. The remaining 2 spotted him and returned fire, bullets sparking off the stone wall Ian was hiding behind. Taking advantage of a brief opening, he tossed grenades behind the enemy line. The blasts shook the surroundings, leaving the soldiers dazed on the ground. With the skirmish over, Ian turned back to the children, saying, "We can't stay here. We need to move now." He guided them slowly forward, each step honed by years of battlefield experience, allowing him to detect and avoid nearby threats. His determination to protect these children grew with each step. Their innocent faces served as a stark reminder of the cruelty of war. As Ian and the children advanced through the ruins, the presence of the enemy was palpable. Ian was ready for a tough battle, but the enemy forces were both greater in number and more heavily armed. His priority, therefore, was to quietly move the children to safety. However, the enemy was skilled at tracking, and they were hot on Ian's trail. They spent the first night in a makeshift shelter near a wooded area. Ian gathered the children in a secure spot and set up warning devices hidden around them. These makeshift alarms would emit a sound if any enemy approached, buying Ian a brief window to defend. He instructed the children to stay hidden and quiet, standing guard over them throughout the night. By morning, the enemy had closed in even further. As Ian scouted the nearby paths, he caught sight of enemy patrol silhouettes in the distance. Calmly, he reassured the children and quickly moved them behind a rocky outcrop. As the sound of enemy footsteps drew nearer, the children trembled with fear, but Ian's focused, determined expression gave them a sense of security. When the enemy patrol neared Ian's traps, he acted without hesitation. One of the devices exploded, creating a loud noise that disoriented the soldiers. Ian used this moment to silently take down the first 2 soldiers with his sniper rifle. Almost no sound had been made, but the rest of the patrol was now on high alert. The enemy soldiers quickly took positions and fired back. Bullets struck the rocks around Ian, sparking on impact and filling the air with smoke. Ian swiftly changed position, slipping into the forest. Gesturing for the children to move, he said, "Move quickly. I'm covering you." The children, hands trembling but trusting Ian, started running. Once he was sure they were moving, Ian threw a few grenades in the opposite direction to draw the enemy's attention. Explosions caused chaos and thick smoke, distracting the patrol. Ian then took advantage of the distraction and shifted to a more strategic position. The enemy couldn't keep up with Ian's tactical skill. He appeared and vanished like a ghost, attacking from unexpected angles. Each shot landed with precision, intensifying the panic among the enemy ranks. Their coordination fell apart as Ian skillfully eliminated them one by one. While the fight continued, Ian focused on protecting the children. Despite being outgunned and outnumbered, he used his intelligence to gain the upper hand. Noticing the enemy attempting to regroup, he quickly returned to the children and urged them to keep moving. But the danger was far from over. As Ian moved with the children, he noticed a reconnaissance drone watching them from above. Without hesitation, he fired one of his last bullets at the drone, hitting its camera and causing it to crash to the ground. However, the shot had still given away their position. Now, Ian and the children were fully surrounded. Turning to the children with a serious tone, Ian said, "We have to stand and fight here. I'll do everything to keep you safe, but stay quiet and don't take your eyes off me." The enemy soldiers approached slowly. Ian set his last grenades around the children to create a defensive line. As the first soldier moved in, the explosives went off one by one, causing widespread confusion in the enemy ranks. Ian once again wielded his sniper rifle, picking off enemy soldiers with deadly accuracy. Those caught in his line of fire stood no chance against Ian's impeccable marksmanship. The children, huddled in a small corner out of fear, watched Ian's dazzling resistance. Despite the bombs exploding around them and bullets flying by, Ian's courage and tactical brilliance reignited a spark of hope within them. As night fell, Ian had finally repelled the enemy assault. He was exhausted and wounded, but he had succeeded. The grateful looks on the children's faces filled Ian with a profound sense of victory, one he had never felt in any other battle. Yet, the journey was not over. The enemy was still on their trail, and Ian gathered his remaining strength to lead the children to a safer place. Ian continued to lead the children along routes with fewer enemy forces, pushing onward to reach a secure area. But it wasn't only enemy troops that challenged them. The rugged and deadly terrain of Zoron II made every step a test. They had to navigate deep valleys, massive rock formations, and sharp cliffs. Every step felt like a trial. While protecting the children, Ian also stayed alert to their surroundings, ready for any attack. However, enemy forces had now surrounded Ian and the children, making retreat nearly impossible. At one point, Ian decided to hide the children in a narrow pass and scout ahead. But before he could fully survey the area, he heard the approaching footsteps of enemy soldiers. Ian took a deep breath, quickly took cover, and began calculating what he could do with his limited ammunition. The children, aware of Ian's readiness, waited quietly. Yet this time, they faced a force the size of an army. Ian took a few deep breaths and prepared for the last stand. He looked the children in the eyes and said, "No matter what, I will protect you. We will make it out of this." Suddenly, they were under intense fire. Ian ducked behind a large rock for cover and carefully aimed his rifle. He took down the first two advancing soldiers, but his position was quickly revealed. The enemy soldiers, now aware of his location, launched a heavy counterattack. Ian skillfully ceased his fire and changed his position. He gestured to the children to stay under cover and expanded his defense strategically. Holding his rifle in one hand and his last grenades in the other, Ian threw one toward the path the enemy soldiers were taking. The explosion echoed loudly, scattering half of the enemy soldiers in shock. However, they were still numerous and relentless. Ian aimed with precision, forcing them to retreat, step by step, through a series of sharpshooting maneuvers. Amid the enemy's relentless pressure, Ian's ammunition was running low. Realizing he couldn't sustain this battle much longer, he guided the children to a narrow cave entrance, believing he could protect them better in the cave's confined corridor. Once inside, he set up an explosive trap at the entrance, which would detonate and delay the enemy once they approached. While on guard near the cave entrance, Ian heard the enemy's heavy machine guns advancing. Without blinking, he fired his last bullets to stall them. Just then, the trap detonated, partially collapsing the entrance and halting the enemy's advance. The explosion spread a large cloud of dust around them, allowing Ian a brief moment to breathe. The blast had bought them some time, but Ian knew the enemy would soon find another way in. He turned to the children and said, "We don't have much time left. I won't leave you. I'll stay by your side, no matter what." Then he started searching the cave's deeper sections for a hidden exit, though the natural structure of the terrain complicated their escape. Just as he thought all hope was lost, Ian found a narrow tunnel at the back of the cave. Guiding the children through this tunnel, Ian led them to safety at last. At the end of the tunnel, they emerged into another valley. As they crossed it, Ian carefully surveyed their surroundings and realized they had finally lost the enemy's trail. The children were now safe in a sheltered area. Once the children settled into this safe spot, Ian collapsed to the ground, exhausted and wounded. One of the children approached him, holding his hand and looking silently into his eyes. Ian felt an unexpected sense of peace. He had kept his promise and saved their lives. Throughout this arduous and epic battle, Ian Calder had won not only for the children but also for the spirit of human courage and faith. The gratitude and admiration in the children's eyes would remain in Ian's memory as a lasting victory. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, see you in the next story.